is John Stremsterfer. I'm the president and CEO of the Community Foundation for the Land of Lincoln. Our mission statement is very short and succinct. It's connecting people who care with causes that matter. I would say our greatest asset is probably all the people involved with the Community Foundation, starting really with the donors who contribute money to the foundation, the staff that's entrusted to help care for those dollars and shepherd the donors through a process of philanthropy, to the people who work at the organizations where ultimately the grants go out to. So people is the short answer, is our greatest asset. Although we look at assets in different ways as well. Of course, financially, the assets continue to grow, so that's a good thing that results in more grants going out to the community. But there again, the money comes from people that need to be generous. That in order for that to happen, people need to be generous, and that's where it all begins. I would say for the nonprofit community in general, the major challenges remain financial. The state of Illinois is not in a great state right now as far as paying any vendors, including nonprofit organizations. And a lot of those nonprofit organizations live really paycheck to paycheck based on services they're providing to people in the state of Illinois. And when those payments are delayed, it really puts a strain on organizations without great reserves. And people suffer when that happens. So I think the unfortunate state of affairs currently, and being in Springfield too, we hear more about it because we are the state capital. I think there are a lot of organizations that have a great deal of anxiety right now, still because of the recession. It is a cultural aspect of the Community Foundation to collaborate. We are here for the benefit of the entire community, and really that forces one to be collaborative in nature as far as local things are concerned. From a larger regional perspective, we collaborate with other community foundations throughout the state, other funders, governmental bodies, people who are like-minded and interested in the same types of issues we are, which can be very broad because we, in theory, are here to serve the entire charitable community, and so all the issues within that range. So it's definitely a part of our culture at the Community Foundation, and I think it always will be. Most nonprofits, first of all, share their legal status in common, that they're not for profit. The things that nonprofits look at in their boardrooms are different than a for-profit company. For-profits will look at a bottom line to pay shareholders some kind of revenue. And the boardrooms at nonprofits, if they're not, they should be looking at their mission. They're mission-driven organizations. We don't have shareholders to pay. We are public charities in large part that are out there to serve the greater good of our communities. So that's a common, legal designation that nonprofits share in common. I think, again, the funding issues are a common area of anxiety for nonprofits, that there's always that overarching sense that it could all go away at some point, whether it be from government funding or from private funding. So I think that creates a certain anxiety in the nonprofit field that you may not find in a for-profit entity that has things you can go out and sell, and if you sell more, you can make more money. Then, of course, there's all kinds of other things to worry about in the for-profit sector. But the nonprofit sector, it's a very different way to measure, and it's a different set of incentives that are created where, frankly, there's not a lot of money to care for sick people, except for the government helps pay for it and people insure themselves. But there's not any GDP growth and doing good works. So it's different in the sense of the frame of mind, how nonprofits approach their work and the employees that work for nonprofits. It's people who are wired for the greater good. Well, I think nonprofits throughout the state could certainly try to unify more as far as public policy is concerned. There's certain tax law that can affect us all from a national level. If the charitable deductions get lowered, that could affect nonprofits. I think as far as in general, You see a lot of competing interests for the dollar from government funding and private philanthropy. I think that is something that if groups would collaborate more, maybe it would be a healthier environment for the dollar that nonprofits seek. But I understand it as well. It's every nonprofit is trying to get their piece of the pie of monies that are available to do the work that they're entrusted to do. But I think that's kind of the rallying points often that I see in nonprofits of, again, related to funding. I'm talking a lot about money here, but it is the engine that also makes our work go. There are policy issues from just a society perspective too, that people can stand up for just what's right as far as policy is concerned. So I think when you look at things that could collectively bring Illinois nonprofits together, finance is an easy, clear item that could bring people together. But there's also kind of the morality side of legislation that can affect people in poverty, people with disabilities, the vulnerable of our community. That really, I think the nonprofit sector has a unique perspective to weigh in on. Three lessons. Wow, to limit to three would be difficult. First and foremost, for me, it's being prepared. I've always in my career worked with largely volunteers, board members, committee members who are volunteering their time, and I'm very sensitive to that. So I've always, in my own personal work, tried to remind myself, you got to outwork everybody. You got to be very well prepared for meetings, just to make it an easier process for the volunteers who you truly need their help with thinking through issues, with weighing in, offering their wisdom and their time. So I've always felt a sense of responsibility to work hard, to make sure that's a positive experience for the people who aren't getting paid to do this. So that's one. Probably true with any profession. Your honesty and integrity is everything. If you lose that, you've lost credibility. For an organization like ours at the Community Foundation, where people really impart a great deal of trust to us with the money that they've earned throughout the course of their life, often they leave their whole estates to the Community Foundation. If you don't have their trust, you really don't have anything, and you really don't deserve it. So we make great efforts here, and I know I do personally, to say what I mean and do what I say. So it's an important thing, I think, for anyone's career or just their own personal life. That's probably a good thing to live by. So there's two. And I think another thing that could apply to anyone's work, you really have to keep an open mind and keep strong relationships with people, because you never know when it might come back around. And so we're very fortunate here at the foundation. I'm fortunate personally that largely the work that I do every day is very positive. It's people who are giving away money to help other people. That's pretty cool. And so there's not a lot of controversy often with what we do, but as we grant make more, decisions have to be made. You're choosing one organization over another often. So you have to just be diplomatic, be fair, and I think that people recognize that in you as long as you're consistent and open and fair and transparent. It lessens the criticism and maintains positive relationships. So there's oftentimes when people apply for funding to the Community Foundation and I'm not ever really a part of any of those committee decisions. I can weigh in when asked when the staff has requested our opinion. But usually it's the committees, the volunteers who make the decisions in our board. But it really is all about trying to explain in an honest way when people don't get funded, why they, and in my opinion, why they didn't, or to encourage them to keep applying. Maybe you didn't get the grant you wanted this time you were seeking, but there's always next time, and really try to be encouraging to people and making them feel valuable in the work that they do, because I know how hard so many of the nonprofit partners we have are working at their work every day. I spent a good part of my life now, over 15 years working in the nonprofit sector, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the work that's done in the nonprofit sector. As far as change goes, I I would hope that maybe it's just a change of perspective from the rest of the world of the nonprofit sector. I think many people still have an unfair connotation in their mind of people in the nonprofit sector, that it's all driven by people who are volunteering and on the street corner in their neighborhood, and that's wonderful, and there's certainly a place for that, but it's become a much more professional sector, and people that go to college and pursue degrees and whatever it may be often end up in the nonprofit sector, although it may not be the career path they originally choose. So I think there's a perception out there because of that, because of the way the educational system is set up. There's not, in your freshman orientation in college, say, hey, why don't you get your degree in nonprofit management? There's more of that now than there was even when I was back in college. But still, it's not often seen as a career choice. And I think that the numbers speak for themselves. It's a huge percentage of our employment sector, and it's a very professional sector, and I've been proud to play a part in that. And I think it's getting better all the time, because I think there are more degree programs out there for people who want to pursue a nonprofit career. And I think there's an unfair times a stigma that goes along with the nonprofit sector as a whole, that it should all be done for free by people who are volunteers, and it's just not practical. It's just not a practical thing. So I take pride in the sector for the professionals I admire and aspire to be like, who are very bright. Some of the brightest, most sophisticated entrepreneurial people I know are working in this sector, and I think we should take pride in that and get the message out to the greater population that there's good careers in the nonprofit sector. There's you can have a good quality of life if just personally, if you work in the sector, you can support your family, you can do all kinds of great things for your own personal life, and you're helping people at the same time, most likely, if you're working in this sector. So it's not a whole lot I'd change at the end of the day. As far as the way it's set up and the way we in the United States have set up the sector, it's still really remarkable compared to the rest of the world, and I think it's something that's an ongoing experiment that you can get better, like anything else, but there's not a whole lot I'd change, probably.